Hey guys, Dr. Rob here today, and I wanted to welcome you to another one of my whiteboard sessions where we're going to be discussing nighttime urination, REM sleep, and adrenal fatigue, and the connection that these guys have. So this is more particular for the person that wakes up at night and has to urinate. Maybe you wake up 2 times throughout the night, or maybe you wake up 3 or 4 times throughout the night. Regardless, if you wake up more than 1 time throughout the evening to urinate, there's typically a problem with REM sleep. And here's the reason why. And also connected adrenal fatigue, which I'm going to explain in a second. And here's the reason why. When your body gets into deep REM sleep, you release a hormone called vasopressin. Vasopressin essentially shuts off your kidneys. When your kidneys are shut off, you don't filter the blood through the kidneys anymore, so you're not really urinating. You don't form any urine. This is actually a really good thing. One of the reasons why is the blood is allowed to filter multiple times through the liver, and this aids in the elevation of vitamin D. So this is actually really important for elevating your vitamin D. It also allows the liver to really do kind of like a deep cleaning on your cells. If you're not getting into REM sleep, that doesn't happen, and the kidneys continually filter all night long, so then you have to wake up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times a night. 5 might be excessive, but some people do have that. But on average, people will wake up 2 to 4 times a night, and this will be simply because they're not able to get into REM sleep. So why aren't they able to get into REM sleep? And one of the number one reasons why a person can't get into REM sleep is problems with the adrenal glands. And it has to do with the production of cortisol. And I want to take a second and explain that in a graph right here. Okay, so let's take a look at what's supposed to happen with these adrenal glands and the release of different hormones. So in the morning, you get up, maybe it's around 8 a.m. This black line here is going to represent cortisol. That shoots way up. So you can see that go way up. That gets you awake. Your cortisol is awake. Your cortisol is getting released. Your body's awake. You're moving around. The day progresses and your cortisol continues, right? And we get to noon and the cortisol starts dropping, which is normal, but it's still pretty elevated. And then it drops and falls and falls and falls. And then by about 10 p.m., our cortisol is pretty low. And what you see start to happen is melatonin and the other sleep substances like GABA, serotonin start to really increase. And around 10 p.m., they start to increase. They go up, they elevate, they stay up throughout the night. So it's like your sleep hormones are now taking over throughout the night. Your stimulating hormones like cortisol, they're now low throughout the night, right? That's what's supposed to happen. When the adrenal glands are too fatigued, this is not what happens. What happens is we get a sputtering effect, which I want to explain to you. A sputtering effect is you wake up and your body is unable to really produce much cortisol. So you wake up, you produce a little bit of cortisol. I don't know if you can see that red line there. I'll make it a little thicker. So you don't really produce much cortisol, so you're tired, right? Some people will use a stimulant now, like coffee or something like that, to get themselves going. Their cortisol will pop up a little bit. You know, they might have some form of energy. You know, they might feel kind of okay. But then they eat lunch, and lunch hits, and their cortisol falls. Okay, so now their cortisol falls. So now they're tired, and they want to take a nap after lunch. They just feel like they're just kind of dragging. Maybe they use more stimulants or just force their body, and the forcing of their body, the demand on the adrenals, causes the body to release more cortisol. So you release more cortisol throughout the day, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, you push your body releases the cortisol. Eventually you get towards the nighttime, and interestingly enough, your cortisol now is higher than where it should be at night. This can cause some people to have a night owl effect, which is they wake up in the evening. They're exhausted here in the morning because their body's not making much cortisol, and they're actually waking up in the evening. Now, as they wake up in the evening, they're awake. They should be going to bed. It's 10 p.m., 9:30, 10. They should be getting tired. They're not. It gets a little later in the evening. Their cortisol starts to fall now. Oh, that's not really a good representation. Their cortisol now starts to fall later on here in the evening, and they get tired. So they fall asleep. Maybe it's like around 11:30, 12, something like that. They fall asleep. So now they fall asleep. So look at this, the amount of cortisol that they made here throughout the day. They didn't make all this massive amount of cortisol, right? All this over here, everything here, this is all produced cortisol. And there's a little gland in your brain called your hypothalamus gland that goes, good job, guys. You adrenal glands made a good amount of cortisol today. That's great. That's what the body needs for life and maintenance and health. So now let's shut those adrenal glands off at nighttime. Let's shut them off and let's allow the cortisol to go low. Let's allow melatonin to go up, and let's now allow the body to heal and repair itself. That's what's supposed to happen. But when the adrenals are weak, we're not producing enough cortisol throughout the day. So what does the hypothalamus gland do? The hypothalamus gland in the brain, the great governor that watches everything, it goes, we don't have enough cortisol, guys. We need more cortisol. So what happens? At 2 a.m., your adrenal glands go, well, I guess we need more cortisol. Let's make some cortisol. So now you make some cortisol here at 2 o'clock in the morning, so you wake up. So you're supposed to be asleep, but you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's that surge in cortisol that shuts off your REM sleep. When your REM sleep shuts off, you don't make enough vasopressin, so then you get up to urinate. So now all of a sudden, you start to cycle of having to urinate 2 or 3 times in the night because you didn't make enough cortisol the day before. So you have little bits of cortisol that spurt and spurt and spurt throughout the night. You don't ever feel like you slept. You wake up in the morning, you don't feel rested. Why do you not feel rested? Well, because you were releasing too much cortisol throughout the evening to try to make up for the cortisol deficit that occurred yesterday, right? You didn't make enough cortisol yesterday, so your body is like, hey, let's make it while we're sleeping, so we've at least made enough. Your body produces cortisol all night, so you have this light sleep, this kind of like daylight sleep where it's like I was asleep, but I felt kind of aware. There were some points that I felt tired, other points that I didn't. And then what happens? Now you've made enough cortisol. Just when you've made enough cortisol, it's time to get up. If people sleep here, this sometimes is some of the best sleep that they get. And the reason why is because their cortisol's low at that moment in time. So their body's like, I could really get a couple hours of deep, refreshing sleep. However, most of us can't do that, right? We got to get up and go to work. And then the cycle starts all over again. Now our adrenal glands are too weak again to make the daytime cortisol. So we get this crazy mechanism over here. But what does that do to our sleep cycle? Totally alters our sleep cycle. It prevents you from getting into REM sleep, which can cause you to wake up more to have to urinate. But there's another piece to this puzzle, which is when you wake up too often, right? When you're waking up too often in the night, not getting into REM sleep, that increases your chance of so many different diseases. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, obesity, right? The list just goes on and on. So in addition to that, you just feel horrible. You're more prone to anxiety, to depression, to mood swings, to irritability. You're not as nice to the people that you're around. You start to crave salty foods, sometimes fatty foods, right? Your appetite can have fluctuations in it where sometimes you're really hungry, especially in the evening. And you get through all this type of stuff that's just horrible, right? Weight gain, belly fat, all that stuff that's connected with this. So the key is you got to find the thing that's stressing the adrenal glands, because it's the adrenal glands where the problem is. And there's something that's stressing them, I promise you. So you have to find the thing, the item. What is it? It's usually something internal. It could be an overgrowth of bad bacteria. It could be parasite. It could be yeast. I just had a woman the other day. She's had intestinal bloating for years, right? She's not been able to solve this. We did this specialized type of stool study that looks at all the different beneficial and potential harmful organisms in her gut. And what did we find? We didn't find any parasites. We didn't find any yeast on that study, although another study did reveal that. We didn't find any fungus. We didn't find any crazy stuff. We didn't find any bacterial infections. What we found is her flora, her microbiota, her gut flora was a mess, right? She had like all imbalances in her gut flora. And what that's like is having your house a mess, right? How great would it be if your TV sat where your fireplace was and your couch was in your kitchen and your kitchen chairs were in your living room and the table that you're supposed to eat at in your living room was in the middle of your family room and your bed that you sleep on was downstairs in the laundry room? It would be a mess. You wouldn't be able to function right in that house. There's no pathogens in that house. There's no criminals. There's no disease in that house per se. It's just everything's in disarray. This woman, that's what was happening in her gut. It's her whole flora was out of balance. So her whole gut is in this state of disarray. So she had major adrenal problems. And this can be the cause of adrenal problems. You could have parasites, yeast, fungi, bacteria, food sensitivities, emotional stress. You can have physical stress and traumas. You can have deficiencies. You can have, what else can you have? You could have a million different things, right? You could be missing certain macronutrients, like certain fats and things like that. You could have toxicities, heavy metal toxicities. The list goes on and on. The thing is, you got to find out what it is. So I hope that information was beneficial. And look, if you have a problem, especially with your adrenal glands, what I encourage you to do, I have a test that I made online. It's called the Adrenal Damage Test, and it's really designed to see how damaged are your adrenal glands. And I will put a link down here to that adrenal damage test so you can take that for yourself. And we'll even do a free consultation with you. I'll have my certified nutritional counselor or my certified health coach consult you for free and kind of review that and give you some free advice as to things that you can do and what we may be able to do on our end if you'd like to work with us to help you. So take that evaluation, take that adrenal damage test. Let us get you some help. And if you like this, please share, please subscribe, and I'll catch you at the next whiteboard session. Thanks very much and have a great one.